Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to the Indiana Arts Homecoming. My name is Floyd Pagdalian, and I am a member of the Homecoming Steering Committee this year. I am pleased to welcome you to this session, Finding and Activating Arts in Your Neighborhood. Today's session will be led by neighborhood champion Merrick Korach and artist Corderro Stith, who might be joining us at the later part of this presentation. Before I turn it over to our presenters, or Merrick for this matter, I'm going to go over a few things. Please remain muted during this presentation until the Q&A, and so we can give our full attention to our presenters. Feel free to utilize the chat function to introduce yourself and ask questions throughout the session. If you would like to rename yourself, you can do so by hovering over your image, clicking the three dots, and selecting rename. Captioning is also available during this session and throughout the conference. You can turn those on by clicking the closed caption button in the bottom navigation bar. If you have any questions or tech issues throughout the session, please feel free to send Chapin from the Indiana Arts Commission a direct message in the chat. And with that, I'm turning it over to Merrick to get started.
Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good day. Meeting virtually. The good thing about this is I already had a trip planned to Boston for a work trip from Evansville, Indiana, and I still get to hop on with everybody. So hope everybody's doing well. With that, let's get started. Like I said, hopefully Cord artists will join us here shortly. So today we are going to spend time, and I love interaction. So if you have any questions or thoughts while I go through this presentation, please drop it in the comments. I'm more than willing to stop and clarify anything or go deeper into anything that may have been confusing or whatnot. But today we're going to be talking about finding and activating arts in the neighborhood. And how do we go about that? So community engagement and a little bit about myself. So I was, since about 3 years old, Evansville, Indiana has been home to me. And with that, I've grown to love the people, the places, even with all of the brokenness and the injustices that have taken place. And so I knew that I wanted to be on the ground in some regards. And a little bit more about me is that my faith is something that propels me to be the hands and feet, the dirty work, so to speak, that gets change to happen. And so, like I said, Evansville's been home for the majority of my life. I graduated locally and then moved to the East Coast to attend seminary. And upon graduation, I really wrestled with, all right, what's next? What I need to do? Just had our baby girl. And if I needed to get a factory job with a master's degree, I would have done that. But I just kept searching what's going on back at home where I knew I was called to come back and enact change and impact. And I found Community One, what they were doing with community revitalization, neighborhood revitalization, their approach in assets-based community development, where rather than going into a disinvested neighborhood and talking about all that's wrong with it, what about all the assets that lie there? And a lot of that, most of that is with the individuals, but you also see much more going on, whether it's gardening and things of that sort. So I reached out and said, hey, this is a little bit about me, where I'm from, what I'm doing currently, and what I think I can add to the organization. And what that was a bridge. Quite frankly, an all-white organization coming into a disinvested neighborhood that is cultured, and to be a bridge between wanting to do good in a neighborhood, and then meeting people where they're at and speaking the same language, and engaging with the culture that already exists. And they said, it's great that you reached out because we just got a position that's open. We're looking for somebody to do just that. And that's when my community engagement, or my official job, started as a neighborhood champion with Community One in Evansville, Indiana. And so a big part of that is really to engage residents, meeting them where they are, building trust, finding out what's going on and how can I come alongside, amplify, support, advocate for, was another piece of my job that I found was important, is that because I have a position, because I have a voice, because I'm connected with networks, it was my job to then advocate for what I was hearing in the streets. And so how do we do that? How do we engage community is a question that we're always asking, and one that we're still asking. Here I am 3 years into this job, and what else can we do? So we have to get creative. Oftentimes it's simply just walking the streets, being in proximity with people. And then that's when you'll start to find and hear what's going on and what's needed. But for this presentation specifically, I want to talk about pop-ups and events that we have held. And so in this neighborhood initiative, me and my coworker, oftentimes we just throw up a tent, we have a table. Sometimes we may have information about what's going on with neighborhood revitalization, what's going on in the neighborhood. But really it's with no motive and no planning, just to pop up and meet. Again, where we pop up, who's in proximity, who we get to know. And one of the pop-ups we did, even though majority of them are unplanned, this one was planned. It was an art pop-up. And in this picture here, the bottom left corner, that is an empty lot on a corner of a street. And we said, well, this is going to be the perfect thoroughfare to get some type of interaction, some exposure for people to see what's going on. And maybe they'll just ask. If you see the sign in the picture in the top right, it just says, ask us what we're doing.
Eric, sorry to interrupt you, but you're currently not sharing your screen. So if you want to share that image. Yeah, sorry. It was because I shared the screen earlier and I'd still
well, then you guys missed my first slide then. But here, this is the slide that matters. Let me pull that out for you.
Feel free to share the other ones too. Sorry about that.
You're fine. I am sorry. All right. Hopefully you guys see that now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
Awesome. Sorry about that, y'all. That bottom picture there was the corner lot that we popped up on. We created an accordion type panel where people can come and just spray paint or use other types of paints. The top right corner picture has a sign that says, ask us what we're doing. And you'd be surprised how many people just pop up and say exactly that. And it's a great and easy icebreaker, conversation starter to start to engage with people. What's cool about this pop-up here is that after we got done, we left the artwork there. And we came back time and time again. Some days it was tipped over, other days it was back upright. Our thought was, wow, the city really cares about what we're doing, loves what we did, wants to cut the grass and put the art back up. But come to find out, the neighbor right next to the empty lot that we did this pop-up, we didn't engage with that day, but was an artist himself. And so he would be the one that came and put the accordion back up, make sure the art was displayed. And through that, we were able to then start conversation with this neighbor. He reached out and said, hey, I hear about some of the things that's going on in the neighborhood. How can I get involved? How can I even get what we call these action grants? It's a small grant amount from $250 to $1,000 to enact immediate change or impact in our neighborhood. And he kept on saying, well, I love to do art. And for the longest time, I kept on saying, just because we did that, you don't have to do art. Not knowing that this guy was an artist, not knowing how good of an artist he is. And so the bottom picture there is the house that we popped up beside, and that is airbrush art that he did and put up himself. Amazing story since then. Walter has been so engaged and has been an advocate for a lot of what we have going on in the neighborhood, whether it has anything to do with housing or more of the early action grants, or even just like helping out a neighbor. Walter is that guy that we can call on every single time. So then years on the ground. That picture in the back is a 3-on-3 tournament that we did. We met a resident, a different resident. Her name is Tashia, and she did an amazing job coming alongside us for the second annual 3-on-3 basketball tournament. A great community and family event, but through that was able to meet then her brother, Corderro Stith, and from there was able to do just some really cool projects. The bottom left picture there is a digital art painting that Cord did himself of an initiative a project called Neighborhood Heroes. And that lady there is Miss Mariama, who runs Masked Mothers Against Senseless Killing. We wanted to honor her and celebrate the good work that she was doing in the neighborhood. And so then we commissioned Corderro to then do that art piece for her. And the picture then you see on the basketball court is something that we just recently did just weeks ago, Labor Day weekend leading up to it. We had our 3rd annual 3-on-3 basketball tournament. And we wanted to do an art project that involved the community and was able to engage in different ways. So actually the local Arts Council was able to be the fiscal holder of the funds that we raised to do this project here. So it was really a cool collaborative effort to see this done. But Cord and I spent many days and nights, early mornings, because it was so hot to get this painting done. And then it was sort of a paint by number thing that we did there where, again, the community can easily get their hands on it. And quite literally, actually, we'll have other pictures, but you can see that we put our handprints on it for those who weren't able to participate on some of the larger paintings. They were still able to say, hey, here's my stamp. I was able to be a part of this. This is aerial footage of that court and the project, the finished project there. All of those smaller, which looks like wasn't meant to be, were actually handprints there. And there's actually, if you can see, it's hard to see, but there's some of Michelangelo's God and Adam fingers actually touching the center of that flower, life flowers. And so this is the part where Cord would have been taking over the presentation, but because he's not here, let me just tell you a little bit about him and what he brings to the table. And so he was also born in Evansville, Indiana, right there in the neighborhood that we are, as Community One, being a backbone support organization for. And he really just lives to inspire and enrich the community through the arts. And he really did that throughout this most recent activity. It was cool to see anytime we rolled up on the court that we had kids who were participating, that were there talking, that were asking about, hey, when's he gonna come back? He's gonna be back today. Being inspired by, when do we get to paint? Do we get to paint today? Kids are very anxious about getting their hands on that paint. He is a self-taught artist, and we'll be able to see some of his work that he has done. Always aims big and encourages others to do the same. And he's aspiring to help more people use their particular art to increase the economic situation from where they're from. And he really is doing that. He, through different organizations, through different networks, he's always trying to bring out the best in each person. And he does such a great job at doing that. And so many artists, like others, are entrepreneurs, and he wants to introduce a business of art to be an example to create more entrepreneurs, whether that is digital art or sculpting, whatever that may be. He wants to be able to pull that out of the individual and just amplify the talent that they already have. And Cord, quite honestly, believes that whether it's the arts as we know it, he thinks everybody has some type of art in them to be able to then transfer to the world of value. And that's what he does. Different avenues available to sell your art. And then he wants to create new businesses. And he believes people can create businesses of their own design, something that people love, that's natural, and something that works for them. He believes that people can stay in their lane and figure out what works best. And this is it. Everyone has potential to create something new into reality for the benefit of others. And so we have a list here, whether it's cooking, motivational speaking, architecture, fashion, math, carpentry, singing, event planning. You all who are attending probably have something in mind. If you think about it, what is that art that you can offer? And of course, it has to bring value to others. His value is to be able to think outside the box. It was a really cool learning experience alongside Cord whenever we were planning and executing the basketball court mural. We would have time schedules, we would have things that we would need to do, and all of that went out the window. He does not operate that way. And that's what's so unique about him. Once I was able to drop expectations about how I thought it should go or what we should do next, with the timing of it all, and just got to sit down and be with Cord. He was very encouraging to me just about life in general. This guy, from the picture that you may have saw earlier, always has a smile on his face, always wanting to bring somebody's spirit up. And he was able to do that with me. Again, he said, everything is art and everyone has art. And we are multifaceted individuals capable of producing something others need or something that we can benefit in life as a society as a whole. And he is a big fan of Think and Grow Rich. And you will hear that if you ever get to talk to him. And so this is some of his artwork. Art is Life Studios is his passion. You'll see some sketch work, but you'll also see a lot of the digital art that he loves to do. I'm gonna just leave that there so you guys can kind of take in what all he's able to do. And he has some time lapse here. And I'm just going to click on one. if you guys would like to follow Artist Life Studio, you'll be able to check out a lot of his other work. I'm sure a lot of this is on his social medias. I'm sorry. Check out another one here. And he wants to let everybody know that today is a new day. Technology has leveled the playing field for everyone. I know that we live in a day and age that not everything is perfect, not everything is even right or just, but he believes that we're able to overcome that. And I just want to echo that on his behalf. And so I would have loved Cord to be here to talk about his art, to be able to show and even demonstrate his self-taught method that he's able to teach other people to easily pick up. But because we can't, the best thing that I can do as a non-artist is just be able to speak into what is like a day-to-day life of being on the ground and engaging with people in the neighborhood. So I would like to just open up this time for anybody that has questions, thoughts, concerns even at this moment. I'm actually going to stop sharing.
All right, Tony's added a question in the chat. I don't know if you saw it yet. Yeah, what steps do you take to ensure a neighborhood wants the gift they are getting?
Yeah, Tony, would you mind maybe elaborating on that question?
Tony, you're welcome to come off mute if you'd like.
Hi. I was just wanting to know how you ensure that when you are researching a neighborhood and speaking to people, that when you bring art into the neighborhood, that it reflects them and is what they are wanting or seeking. I know you're always going to have naysayers. There's always going to be somebody who doesn't like what you do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting ready to do a large book arts project for a couple communities, and I want to make sure that the story that I tell is their story and not just a visualization of the story I create.
For sure.
So if there are means or processes that you go through to understand what the neighborhood is seeking?
Yeah, and quite frankly, it's for me, it's relational. And so if you're working with that community, it doesn't sound like it's just going to be a pop-up event, but if you've been working with them, it's much easier to then ask, hey, what is it? What is it about this neighborhood? What is it about the person that you're connecting with individually? There will be naysayers. There will be people that don't like the art. But art is beautiful in that way. I can't necessarily think of a time that people would look at something beautiful and have something negative to say about that. And I know whether it's visual or a different type of art, it could be different. But the cool thing is that each person has a different even value of that art or what they want to share about themselves. And so for you going into a neighborhood, you being able to share a little bit about yourself is even a great thing. But to then tie in what you know about the neighborhood and what you've heard so far. Walter, for example, love thy neighbor on the side of his big old house. I am sure there are people who don't believe, but I don't doubt that people can drive by that and not catch it, and even be fascinated by somebody's skill on that. Tony, did that answer your question? For me, it's really personal. It's really getting to know where I am and who I'm serving to be able to hear and then capitalize on. It's always good to check in. Awesome.
Zach, do you want to speak to your experience
Zach
with the mural
Evans.
project?
I know this guy.
He had mentioned earlier he was having internet connectivity issues, so I don't know if that's why we're seeing a potential frozen image.
No worries. Until he gets unfrozen. Zach is actually a couple years older than me. He's my sister's age, and so we went to school together. And I know that Zach has been doing some great things in regards to news and journaling and arts in our city. There he is.
Hey, what's up? Sorry, I've had some internet issues. So if I drop out while I'm talking, I'm really sorry, everybody. But I just wanted to kind of add my perspective from the Arts Council and how the 4 hours I was there with Cord helping paint that basketball court mural, how it was. And I just thought the entire vision process was really interesting. Cord's vision for what the final looked like and seeing it executed over the course of several days leading up to the community event that was really interesting. It was only for 4 hours and Cord had a strong magnetism to everyone in the community. A lot of kids coming up. Everyone was really interested in what was going on, which again kind of connects to the previous question from Tony about getting the community buy-ins. The community that was there was clearly interested in what he was doing. The design itself was at face value not very controversial, I guess. It's not like you're putting something that would beg a lot of questions, I would think. But I thought it was really fun watching Cord engage with everyone in the community. I'm worried I've lost everyone.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Thanks for chiming in, Zach. Do other folks have questions?
I would add that again, the value that I had to add to the organization in a neighborhood that has been disinvested. I have family that lives there. I have friends. I have mentees, and just having that type of connection with the community that you're engaging with. I know not everybody has that privilege, but that is really what it's about. I can't tell you I mean, it's been 3 years that I've been on the ground, and I'm just now starting to win over somebody's trust. And especially when you talk about disinvested neighborhoods, they've heard it all. They've been surveyed to death, and quite frankly, like empty promises, empty words. And so, being committed, being in proximity, and continuing to show up and listening and acting on what I have heard, it goes a long way. We're 3 years into it, and I'm just now starting to win over some people's trust and respect in that way. And so I cannot stress enough how important it is to see people as people. I think we're having a hard time doing that nowadays. And just meeting people where they are. When you're able to do that, a lot of what we bring into conversations or situations start to fall off to the side, and you start to see the person as they are, which, I mean, at that moment, that's when you're able to lean in and then act on what you hear. Okay, we have a question. Do you ever go past the budget? What are your biggest expenses? Do you eat a lot of costs in the wage, or do you have secondary resources to offset that expense? For this basketball court mural, I'm not sure on Chord's end what all it costs to do it, and what it's even worth for an individual to put that type of work in. But I will say that for the community organization that I worked for, there were times that I didn't call on Cord to say, hey, go get this, pick this up, or we already paid you, so it should be coming out of that budget. I just went ahead for the greater good, went ahead and ate the cost to get extra paint, to get extra tape, to get extra brushes. And so, yes, I think oftentimes things go over budget. Thankfully, with the community organization that has served as an anchor in that neighborhood, and the willingness to be able to come out of our budget rather than the artist's budget, goes a long way. Not everybody's blessed to be able to do that. But again, this was really a team effort where we had a funder, that we had the Indiana or the Arts Council locally, a community organization, artists from the community coming together. And so the more that we're able to collaborate, I think the better off we are. And if people see the vision or have a passion for what's taking place, it makes everything a lot easier. Yeah, so another question that came in is, can you tell us more about the action grants? What kind of projects are people in the neighborhood proposing? So this is, it's one of the funnest times of the year. One, because our neighborhood meeting attendance is through the roof whenever we're saying, hey, you can get 200 to 1,000 to enact change in your neighborhood. Because people they're sitting on things, they're seeing what's right around their house and saying, man, I wish I could just do that, but you know, life happens and expenses occur. And so it's really just a great time for people to come. And some of those projects are, let's see, a tree planting initiative. And so there's a neighbor in the neighborhood who not only is planting trees and inviting people to plant trees and neighbors to put trees in their yard, but he's also coming alongside the youth to educate, why do we need to plant trees? And again, in the neighborhood that I'm from, we have beautiful tree canopy, but unfortunately, because they have not been kept up to date or trimmed or taken care of, a lot of these trees that stand 30 plus feet are falling over. And so he gets to come alongside and talk about rainwater runoff, and what does it do for shade in the neighborhood and people's morale whenever they're able to just be outside and have fresh air. And so that's one of them. Another is an artist in regards to hip hop. And so that funding was able to go towards a music video that he hired another neighbor in the neighborhood to shoot the video for him. Walter with that painting on the side of his house. There's also a family that has started a garden on raised beds because, again, in the neighborhood that we're from, we have a lot of lead-based paint and old things that have lead in them. And so she's able to create raised beds and now demonstrate and teach others how they can easily, one, build, but then also plant. For my little brother who lives in the neighborhood still, he's somebody that's trying to find his way still. He's on this trip with me up here in Boston. I'm just trying to get him an experience. He hasn't been outside the States in this way. This is the farthest trip that he's been on. Besides the point, another piece of it, we went in on a grant together about just financial literacy. What does it mean to know about finances and what are assets and liabilities, and how can you take a little bit of money? So we awarded him $300. And how can you then take that money and have that money work for itself? And he's been able to grow it since then. And the list goes on. We've been doing this for 3 years now. What's cool is that whenever we bring people together to either share about past experiences or what they want to do with it, they've been able to just be encouraged and even celebrate one another with all that's going on. And so those are just a few others. And we have Cord, the artist, is here with us. And I would like to just turn this over to him because I'm over here sweating a little bit. You're muted. Cord, you're muted.
All right, howdy.
What's up?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
All right, I'm glad to be here with everybody. Sorry, excuse my lateness, my apologies. And time zones and that alarm clock, oh my goodness, I am working overnight. So
Yeah.
I've been going crazy. My eyes are probably red, but it's okay. So where you want me to start? How about that?
Yeah, so we were able to go through the presentation. I know I wasn't able to do justice on your end. So if you just like to really just tell a little bit about yourself, your passion, and just bring that joy to this room that we know that you're capable of doing.
I appreciate you, brother.
And even talk about just your self-taught method and how easy it is to engage in art.
Oh yeah, so I'm an artist from Evansville, Indiana, born and raised. I'm self-taught, and as he said, and I've been drawing since I was 4. Had a scholarship to Chicago to art when I was in middle school, so I've been drawing at a pretty high level since forever. That's the ground story to basically say that I kind of always knew what my art was. It's art, literally. But I feel like everybody has this creative energy, this naturally creative ability through the faculties of imagination or and just everybody's gifted with that. So it doesn't matter if it's mathematics, science, music, sculpting, poetry, writing, you name it. Everybody's got something that they can give to the greater good of society or for other individuals. And that fulfillment of need automatically feels or creates value in the marketplace. So there's that. So everybody has an art that can structure a business around to always be in work. And accept their own number, saying the world needs it, this creative input from every individual. Let's see, and people would be better if money is the option to go get, as far as it's a necessary of society, that it'd be best to do it in something you love or something you're most skilled at. So that's the kind of way I that's the way I look at it as far as the best way to jump into being an entrepreneur. So, all right, so being from Evansville, Indiana, I just jumped off the porch and decided to create my own business. I decided to bet on myself at a certain age, about 25, so 35 now. Well, so let me say 27 because the better part of a decade. And so I in that time, well, I knew that, all right, so me starting off though, I didn't have any influences or anyone I can directly connect to say that this is how to do it. And matter of fact, I hear that it's possible. I see folks on TV, maybe some rich folk around town in the news or something like that, but I don't know anybody that's doing it. So I personally set out to be that individual in my community. So when I set out to create a business around my art, not knowing anything, I just jumped out freelance and I was very skilled at the pencil. And so let me say this to you. I kind of give a full circle around the way I talk about things. But 10,000 hours, right? The book Outliers say 10,000 hours will make you a master at anything. So I've always drawn with pencil forever. And once I decided to jump off the porch, I kind of was just like, give me what you got, what you want to see. And so some people like color pencil, some people like talk pastel, and paint, you name it, digital painting. I've kind of touched everything. So logo making and all of that. But so I went at it with the simple belief that I don't start anything I can't complete. I wouldn't even start it if I didn't think I could. So I always go at everything. So this mural, we did a mural together. That was awesome with these bare hands. It's crazy. And a good support system. My guy Merrick was here. Wait, we started the days. Yeah. We were, it was good. It was dope. So, but that was the first shot. It was the first shot. And it turned out magnificent. We was able to work together with the kids in the community. And I got to speak to every one of them every day. So that's why it was probably, definitely my most favorite project to date, because I got to directly interact with the youth in the community, and they're the best people to talk to because they're all imaginative, but still building who they are. And sorry about that. And so it's the information definitely sticks, and it's just good to be able to get that information to them. I know I didn't have anybody kind of give that information to me that you can literally do anything and show me by example. You know what I mean? I went from $100 commissions to nearly 5,000. So, and I mean, and it's been an on and on, like it was just a level to this thing. And it took a lot of bravery, but it wasn't even such things like that. It was, I knew who I was. So I think that's the problem in most communities, that most individuals, and not even just, lower income communities, I mean, most communities, because like 98% are not wealthy. You know what I mean? So like, it's this thing that people don't know who they truly are. So I feel like I want to be a catalyst that introduces people to who they are. And all I can do is, like, I'm gonna just show you this. I'm getting down. I'm just a person like you know what I mean? And then I'm gonna lead you to the books that kind of unlock my mind, like Think and Grow Rich, Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist, the Tao, the Book of the Way, the Tao Te Ching, and just to name a few. But Think and Grow Rich, I would say Napoleon Hill's, Laws of Success, and those books probably had the most impact. I feel like those need to be in the curriculum now and everywhere. It's just a bit of information that only a choice few even know about or have. Even The Secret, like a couple of decades ago written, most folks don't know about that. So like, we just need to introduce people to who they are. Everybody's been bogged down by misinformation and a massive amount of random information constantly. So it's easily to make you forget, you know what I'm saying? So we just, by example is the easiest way, because a lot of people don't, everybody learns differently, but if, if you see it, you kind of can't deny it. So let's just, you know, be the best we can be. So let's see, where do we go from here? So not only I talked income from $100 commissions to now, but I also started from just doing work in the community with people that kind of knew me, to doing work with the city, to I'm working on the Evansville City flag. Stop playing. I worked on the first round. That's crazy. To come from the South Side, no degree. I mean, you know, not that I didn't even go for a degree either. It was just that it didn't feel like me. So I was still in that phase of discovering what I should do with my gifts. And after, I don't know about telling the ultimate aims. They say not to do that, but I like to inspire people. So I want to tell you how I'm aiming. I'm aiming to create one of the greatest animation companies of all time, right? And I want to prove that one of the greatest can come from Evansville, Indiana. You know, a city like that. It's not a major. It's not New York. It's not LA or Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? But it's in America or it's in the world. And these physics of reality say humans can do this. And it's not location locked. So I want to show my people where, you know, my city, where I come from, that no matter where you're from, no matter how old you are, yeah, everybody's capable of greatness. You can be the greatest, you know? So I want to, you know, put Evansville, Indiana on the map for art. Let's go crazy. Yeah, I think I can do it. So, yeah, so, you know, it's to be limitless. When you understand who you are, limitless. You are limitless. We are all limitless. If everybody doesn't leave this situation right now, set out tomorrow to do something crazy. And I don't mean crazy, go to jail, like I'm down. I mean, it's so crazy, so wild that you never fathomed you can do it before. And maybe everybody around you wouldn't believe it's possible. But you know, it's something you always wanted to do. And you know that everything is possible. Look at the computers we're working on. Everybody's probably everywhere. And we're all like, look at this, like nothing's impossible. A million years ago, they would have thought we was using alien technology right now. Stop. I mean, not a million, but just a few, 50 years ago, stop. So nothing's impossible. So this is what I want to give to where I'm from. I was going to make a name for myself out there in the world, you know what I mean? And then, you know, I got the millions now. Let me get my hometown, you know, build some stuff. I'm like, I want to create my foundation from here outwardly. So I come back home, working on major projects, painting the city red currently, about to do another basketball court, go crazy. Second one around, be a little bit easier. See, you just start stomping and then you figure things out and they get easier as you go. You know what I mean? And so that's what I mean. Like, any questions, anything I missed?
Yeah, Cord, there was a question in the chat, and Tony helped answer it from her perspective. But from you, not having a mentor, the question was, how do you get great mentors when nobody has done the art form before? And then she went on to say that she is doing augmented reality. Ooh, and she needs to find a community of people, even though they may not understand her form of art. But she's excited about finding mentors and then becoming one to make an impact in the community. And so just from your experience, how were you able to, without a mentor, become a mentor?
Okay, so I learned up for one. I just kept learning. And let's say this. You might not be able to find a mentor that you can just directly talk to in person and stuff like that, but they're in the books. I heard of one successful entrepreneur that what he would do was he would imagine himself at a table with all the people he admires. So Lincoln, Ford, let's say Edison, let's say Carnegie. And so every situation, he would imagine how they would respond. And that gave him the second, this is how powerful the mind is. That gave him the different opinions, the consistent team of tremendous individuals. And the ability to accomplish these major goals. But another thing, success is not, okay, hold on. You don't technically need a mentor in that field of augmented reality. The thing is, you need a mentor. You need to discover success. All right, how to be successful. It's across the board. So when you want to learn how to be great in the field of augmented reality and find your people. So, right. So this is everyone's task when they set out to do their particular thing, whether it's cooking. I gotta find a cooking mentor and then find my particular people to buy my products, right? So it's everyone's really tasked with the same objective, and it's basically learning how to find the information you need to become the person you're aiming to be, and then how to reach out there or create enough awareness of yourself and what you're doing to find your crowd. So I didn't have it. So I didn't directly have a mentor. I found him through Napoleon Hill, through the folks I looked up to. So when I'm thinking like animation company, Walt Disney, constantly every day, oh, Disney's doing this, oh, they doing this style. Okay, this is where I gotta go. And then Todd McFarlane, that style. So when I do draw the comics, it's like I'm gonna make it extra intricate. So I'm following the people that have mastered the areas I'm aiming to go into, and the folks that I look up to. And so learning how to be successful, it's common across the board. That's why Napoleon Hill was able to write the principles, because he followed 500 of America's most successful industrialists at the time, and wrote what worked and what didn't work. And the things were synonymous across the board. So it's just a simple one way to make all things work. And I'm glad you said augmented reality, because I'm learning that thing too. I got this. Oh, yo, and NFTs. I don't know if everybody's thinking about that, but I was talking about, if you didn't know, that's where it's at in its infancy, is where the internet was when it first came out. And I'm talking about Windows 95, 93, or well, yeah, the early days like that. That's where it's at in its infancy. And we see what the internet became and all the things that come up with social medias and all that. So NFT, get down. I'm making an art gallery. So it'll be a virtual art gallery. Be one of the first ones on there. Stop playing. And then, so in 10 years, that thing gonna be, let's see what the blockchain do, okay? And then, so how I'm learning augmented reality, how I learned digital painting, I just went to YouTube, you know what I mean? And then there's Linda tutorials. Like, all the information is out there. What they say, if you seek, you will find. 100%. 100%. We have it in our hands, connected to it. We're talking on it, laptop. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really don't have to search far. You'll find 100 mentors. You know what I'm saying? Like, for real. Like, then this one wrote it. This one put it in a book. This one's got videos. You know what I'm saying? And you collectively take that knowledge in and apply it to what you're doing. So that's how I'm gonna learn AR and VR. Because so how I'm gonna actually use it though is with my comics, make them pop out a page, maybe show some lightweight animation when I drop the comics. And then at the same time, I'm going to create action figures so that someone can purchase my, one of my characters and look, hey dude, just look at it on the desk over there. You see that? It's pretty cool. You feel me? So that's how I'm going to use AR. And yeah, so yeah,
Cord, we have just a few minutes here. We have to close it in 4 minutes.
All right.
And Chapin asked, so I talked about needing to show up in the neighborhoods you wish to build a relationship with, and can we speak towards what that looks like? So how, for me, it's as simple as being in proximity with people and showing them that you're not going anywhere. But Cord, you may have your own personal experiences of how do you show up each time, and how do you continue to build with who you're with?
Yeah, so I like how you said it though, because like the closest people to you will be the last to almost get down. You know what I'm saying? But what you gotta know is that what you're doing is great. If it's for the greater good, if it's for the positive benefit of other human beings, be persistent. People will get it. Everybody don't get things right away. They understand things at their own time. We know that for sure. People are at all kinds of different levels of understanding. We just look at the presidents. No, that one's just let's not go there. We know it's somewhere. Come on now. That's why some of me always remember forget things. But so people get things when it's their time. And everything happens as it should. So don't put too much weight on yourself that it didn't go my way. Like there's so many variables that are not in our control. But the one thing is controlled is our thought about things that we do and how persistent we are. I mean, that's the key to success is to stay persistent. You can stop right before goal, right? So just don't stop until you reach your goal. And so if so to speak on my experience though, like it was very difficult. I knew that I was doing when I started out, I was doing great art pieces. My task always was to inspire those around me. But when you don't have a portfolio yet, it's just words. So um there's that. So it's okay, so right. It's okay, so I started out with the mindset to inspire everyone to be their own boss. Like I knew that I could do this and that everyone had to get to, I'm just another person like them. So I was like, um, I'm just gonna go at it. And then so I just, oh yeah, no. So I knew that what I was creating though was like way more valuable than I was like selling it for. But I had to lower the rates to get the portfolio built up. And because of the area I'm operating from, I understand. I live in I grew up in it. So what it is you have to sit at the table. You know, you have to meet everybody at the table they're at. You know what I mean? So you can't talk above people's heads. You can't, you have to do some research and understanding, or just come from an empathetic standpoint. Now, I knew this, that I could do this because I had been doing it since I was 2. I knew my thing. So I'm telling everybody, man, I'm telling you, got a thing. And I never even thought about it. A lot of people like, oh, I don't know. Saying, but I always knew. I knew so much that I was almost avoiding it at some point. Like, let me try this because I've been doing that forever. So it's like, and then everybody expects me to be, you kind of doing silly stuff. But then life is like, nah, dude, you better do that. So, I got on it. But so I just knew that uh it 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 wasn't gonna take so well right off the bat. Even this far in, there's still those folks that are like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Or oh, he ain't so green. I'm like, wait, the catalog little mean now. It doesn't even matter now. I've beyond convinced myself. So it's cool, you know what I'm saying? But that persistence will give you that, you know what I'm saying? And you'll find your success at the end. I think once I once I achieve this flag, like the folks that I grew up with that I know, it would be so mind blowing that someone from the same schools, with the same surroundings, with the lack of leadership or entrepreneur examples in their family or closely related or just in proximity, was able to achieve such a thing. It's gonna be like this. Even just being able to paint a mural with these hands, stop. Uh, everybody's like, whoa, dude, you did that. Thank you. We did that on me. You see all them hands out there? We did that. So it's just like I so once I get there though, I feel like I have kind of I probably the projects leading up to I will have done almost all the things within here. They're not going to jump out there and then show everybody how far you can take it to. So I'm gonna go back to Atlanta. We'll go to California. We're gonna do that animation thing. We're gonna take on the world.
Oh my gosh, I love
Hopefully
your
this
all's
guy rocks with me
energy.
because he's a great 100%.
I hate to interrupt you
Oh,
because
no worries.
I love your energy.
Thank
I
you.
just want to make sure that our participants have the opportunity to attend the meetups that begin at 4:35. But thank you so much to Merrick and Cord. There's so much talent and compassion on the screen, omitting my little box. We really appreciate your wisdom. And again, to our participants, in about 4 minutes, meetups will begin to close out day 1 of Indiana Arts Homecoming. So thank you again, Merrick and Cord. Really
Thanks,
appreciate it.
everybody.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you. Thanks for having us.